Hello, this is wmpyr. I apologize that it's been a while. I just been kind of busy recently, and then on top of that, I had caught a really bad cold, but I'm feeling much better now. And yeah, so for today's lesson, I want to talk about the empty hand techniques for double arm weaving. Essentially, that's what I want to talk about. So the first place where I learned Filipino martial arts at this school, they didn't teach Heaven Six. So even though I want to say Heaven Six, never heard of the name Heaven Six there. No one said it, not even once. And yeah, it was definitely not taught. But what we did learn was heaven and earth. Now that being said, right? We learn heaven and earth, but the motions, like when you do that empty hand, it naturally becomes Heaven Six. It just, we didn't have a name for it. It wasn't really, it was just kind of, I guess, treated like a variation. Okay. So we did heaven and earth, and when you go empty hand, what was taught to me was the guy throws a punch at me, and I'm going to receive it using the heaven and earth. So number one was it was a chop, essentially, a knife hand. Okay, it's my number one. Number two was also a knife hand, and number three was also a knife hand that could be like onto the neck. So one and two are onto the arm, and number three could be on the guy's neck. It didn't have to be. It could still be on the arm. We could do all three on the arm. But remember, this is heaven and earth is actually six. It's comprised of six techniques. So number three, the way I remember was you hit the neck, and then 4, 5, 6 was pretty much from there on. It's to the body and head. So 1 and 2 started off on the arm, and then number 3 could be on the arm or neck, but we, teachers seemed to like the neck. And then from there on, 4, 5, 6 was all, directly to the person's head and body, not the limb, not the arm, right? So that's the way it was taught, okay? And then it was taught as a variation that, of course, it didn't have to be the knife hand. It could be a palm strike, or it could be a spear hand, like to the throat. He could have said the eyes, but I think what I vaguely remember was more the throat, spear hand to the throat. So I guess the Jeet Kune Do people, might go, to the eyes, right? But we did spear hand to the neck is what I remember, right? To be specific about it. Honestly, it's the way that we were taught it was very versatile. Like when I asked, like, where exactly do I hit? The instructor was like, it doesn't matter. Like literally, it hurts everywhere kind of thing. So the lesson that I learned from that was that it's very, very versatile. So even though he, preferred, let's say, a throat shot, spear hand to the throat, easily substitute it with spear hand to the eye or spear hand like here. In fact, I think he may have shown this one right here, right under the nose. He may have shown eye. I don't remember, but I think this was, once again, our preferred. But as an option to the knife hand, okay? So knife hand, and then palm strike, and then spear hand. Do I remember claw? He may have mentioned claw, but maybe we didn't really do claw, because that's, once again, another option. Like I said, there were tons of options. And then, of course, punch. A fist was an option as well. And that was one that, he mentioned as well. The instructor mentioned, but I don't really remember us practicing with fist. So what we really practiced with was the knife hand, right? But all of those options were mentioned, okay? So I just want to be very, very clear about that. Did he mention elbow? It was so long ago. He may have mentioned elbow, but I really, like I said, our main thing was knife hand. So you're doing, heaven and earth, boom, 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 right? These were all knife hands, okay? And if you decided to slip a claw in there, you know, spear hand to the throat or whatever. Those are all options. It's all good, you know, or a punch. Slip that in there. Why not? So that's the way it was taught to me, okay? Now, I modified that, okay? And there was a point where I really, really liked elbows. So when we started doing more, like this is my own training, but when I started researching more cross-training with Jeet Kune Do people, and you start learning about the Filipino dirty boxing, the panantukan type stuff, elbows start really coming in, you know. So it's the same idea as doing like a gunting technique. Gunting means scissor, but it's a double hand technique where you're kind of making like a scissor type motion. So you could do this kind of thing, but now you could, same idea, just using an elbow instead. So you're still, still a scissor action, okay? But the elbows would start coming in. And I really liked that because I already had a background in Muay Thai kickboxing. So the elbows were just very, you know, familiar for me. And I really liked elbows. And my coach, my Muay Thai coach, he really, really liked elbows. So naturally that, you know, the style of Muay Thai that I learned, his personal style, it just rubs off, right? Because that was the person I learned it from. So he favored elbows. That was his favorite weapon. Then I'm going to favor elbows too. So doing the Filipino dirty boxing, the elbow stuff I really, really liked. But then over time, it changed into forearm. So that's me personally, my own evolution. It's not like I was like, elbows aren't good, forearms are better. No, it just, through training, naturally, just forearms started to work much, much better for me in many ways. In using the when I was studying Filipino history and, you know, as like the military stuff and, you know, using it where the idea, you know, like, who was it? The famous, was he Special Forces guy that it's come on CNN and all that, and he said run, hide, fight, and in that order. So, and I kind of noticed that the Filipino combatives had a similar mentality. Run, hide, fight, the guerrilla warfare. And then it just made sense to me that the techniques would be more defensive. I know a lot of combatives people go the opposite route where they make the techniques more offensive. But for me, it was like, no, this defense actually makes more sense for combat, for warfare. You know, so then from that point of view, and the defang the snake suddenly started to take a whole new meaning for me. And it helped me understand, just from my point of view, it made more sense to me, the Filipino philosophy. So in that sense, going from elbow, which is an offensive weapon, into a forearm, which is a more defensive. Not to say that you can't attack with the forearm, but it's a wider shield. So I started doing Heaven 6 with the forearm. And that was my own personal evolution. And so I teach that to you guys today. And for me, that's huge. And I really, really like it. And I think it's extremely useful and beneficial. So I still teach that to this day as part of the wmpyr method of Escrima. So anyway, just wanted to show you guys kind of like the origins of what I first learned and then, you know, what it is now, which is, for me now, it's all about the forearms. Okay. So just wanted to explain that to you guys. And that's it for now. Thank you for viewing, and take care, folks.